Magical treats taste great, but justice and equality taste better. To combat hate, all ad revenue from my HB Kitchen will be donated to trans and LGBTQ charities. Thank you for supporting the kitchen and helping make the world a better place. Mischief managed.
Hello witches, wizards, and those who have just escaped from Azkaban. Welcome back to my Harry Potter Kitchen, the YouTube series where we're making our way through the Harry Potter books, creating magical recipes for every item of food and drink that we find inside. If you missed last week's recipe where we served up a magical marmalade upside down cake, then make sure you check out the link down below in the description to catch up. And if you're new to the kitchen and you want to see some more Harry Potter recipes, then hit that subscribe button, click on the notification bell, and you'll get an alert every Magic Monday when there's a brand new recipe. Speaking of which, it's Monday, so let's make some magic. We're jumping back into chapter 6 of the Prisoner of Azkaban, Talons and Tea Leaves, where we catch up with everyone again back at the Great Hall, and they're tucking in to more food when we see Ron, cheer up, said Hermione, pushing a dish of stew towards him. Looks like we need a heartwarming dish to put a smile on Ron's face. Nothing cheers you up like a good home-cooked meal, so that is what we're going to do for Ron today. We find out a little bit later that this stew has meat and carrots in, so I took that inspiration to conjure up a minted lamb stew with the carrots and a whole host of other vegetables, just so he also gets a little vitamin kick in there as well. It is so easy to make. I'm going to do this one in my slow cooker, so we'll have a little bit of prep at the start, pop that all in, and then we can sit back and relax while all those flavours and juices mature. First up, we do need to prepare those ingredients, so let's get started. To begin, we're going to start off by preparing our lamb. I've got chunks of lamb shoulder, but you can also use lamb leg or any other red meat if you prefer. If there are any hard fatty pieces, I'm just going to chop those off, as otherwise they can be quite chewy in the stew. Once you're happy, pop those into a bowl, and I'm going to season with salt and pepper before mixing through. Place a pan onto a medium heat and then add in some oil. Once the oil is nice and hot, I'm then going to add the lamb in, and we're going to sear that for around 1 to 2 minutes on each side until it starts to caramelise. This is going to help seal in all the juice and flavours so it doesn't dry out in the stew. Once they're caramelised on one side, flip them over and sear the other. I'm then going to transfer that into my slow cooker and then get started on the rest of the ingredients. Just to add some spice to the base, I'm using some Nduja sausage to deglaze the pan. Stirring this around as it begins to fry and soften up, and then I'm going to pour in my red wine. Allow this to bubble and scrape off any of the lamb on the bottom of the pan, and then this can go into the slow cooker too. Next is our vegetable prep, so I'm starting off with the carrots, and all I'm going to do for these is chop off the tops and then slice into quarters. Once you're happy with all of your carrot batons, you can pop those into the slow cooker too. For the celery, I'm going to chop off the ends, lay that down onto my board, and then thinly slice. Work your way all along, and then pop those into the slow cooker as well. To bulk out our stew, I'm using some potatoes in there as well, because everyone loves a good carb, so for these I'm just going to chop those into quarters as well. You want them to be about 1 inch thick. Remember, if they're too small, then they might overcook and go mushy, and if they're too big, they could end up raw. You know the score by now. Once you're happy with the potatoes, pop them into the slow cooker. I'm also adding in some red onion for flavour and colour, so I'm going to peel those, slice in half, and then lay them down, and then thinly slice as well. They can go into the slow cooker before you move on to the peppers. These are going to add some nice colour and texture to our stew as well. So I'm just chopping off the tops, cutting in half and then removing the seeds, and then I'm just going to chop them into some rough chunks. The rest of the ingredients are just our flavourings, so if there's anything here that you do or don't fancy, feel free to personalise this bit of the recipe. For the garlic, you can either use a garlic press, or I'm just going to crush those and add them in whole, as they'll release all of their flavour while it cooks. Mint goes amazingly well with lamb, so I'm going to pull off the leaves from the stem and then roughly chop them. The easiest way to do that is to bunch them together and run your knife along. Generously season with salt and pepper, and remember you can always add more later so you don't have to overdo it at this stage. I'm also adding in mixed herbs, thyme, basil, some bay leaves, and some cinnamon. And then for the sauce, I'm adding in tomato puree and some beef stock. You can either use fresh or create your own using a stock cube. Carefully pour that into your slow cooker, and then I'm going to work everything through so it's nice and evenly combined. You may notice that we've got all of the Hogwarts house colours represented in these ingredients too. So that's how you know it's going to be a magical stew. Once your stew base is nice and mixed, you can then pop the lid on, and we're going to cook that on low for 2 hours. So that is pretty much all of the hard work done. So now we can sit back and relax and let the slow cooker do all of the magic. Over the next 2 hours, that lamb is going to start to tenderize, so then it's going to melt in our mouth when we tuck in. As we have a little bit more time on our hands, I wanted to use it to create some magical dumplings for our stew, and of course, it's my HP kitchen, so we're going to conjure these ones up lightning bolt style. To make your easy stew dumplings, you want to pour your flour into a bowl and season well with salt and pepper. To give these dumplings a little extra kick, I'm also using some smoked paprika and some chili flakes. Add in your butter and then work with your fingertips until it forms breadcrumbs. At this stage, you can make a well in the middle, add in your water, and then stir that through until it forms a soft dough. Traditionally, dumplings are added in as spheres, but it's my Harry Potter kitchen, so we're going to use this opportunity to create some lightning bolt dumplings. I've flattened the dough just using the palm of my hands and then used a knife to cut out my lightning bolt shapes. You can either use a stencil if you prefer, or do it freehand. Once you've cut the bolt out of your first piece of dough, you can just rework it into another ball in your hand and repeat the process until all of your dumplings are ready. At this point, I'm going to remove the lid from the slow cooker and then give that another good mix through. This is also a great time to taste the stew and see if it needs any extra seasoning. Once you're happy, you can then carefully place the dumplings on top, and remember these will expand, so you want to give them a little room. All that's left to do is pop the lid back on top and leave those to cook for a final 30 minutes. So the dumplings are in for the final cook, and this is the part where you have to resist the urge to open it up and tuck in straight away. It does smell incredible, but we don't want doughy dumplings. We also want to keep as much of that steam in as possible, as that's what's going to help cook the stew and the dumplings too. So keep that lid tightly on for at least half an hour before you open it. Trust me though, it is worth the wait. And it's showtime. There will be an incredible smell filling your kitchen, so you can take off the lid, let all of that steam come up as it looks pretty magical. Serve this stew generously with your lightning bolt dumplings on top. And for a little added presentation, you can also garnish with some coriander, which I've roughly chopped before sprinkling over the stew. And with that, our minted lamb and carrot stew is complete. If this doesn't cheer on up, I'm pretty sure nothing will. So there you go. If this doesn't cheer Ron up, I don't know what will. I hope you enjoyed this week's Harry Potter recipe, and if you want to see more from my Harry Potter kitchen, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, click on the notification bell, and you'll get an alert next Magic Monday when there is a brand new recipe for you to enjoy. Speaking of which, I'm off to have my stew, so I'll see you next time.